Hello and welcome to Sarcastic Spinster, a PC-free zone. Today I actually want to talk about Sansa Stark in a Game of Thrones and an idea that's going around in the fandom that any hatred of Sansa Stark must be based in misogyny. The whole idea behind that is that she is a character that is so quintessentially female. She is such a representative of what it means to be a woman that any criticism of her is actually misogyny. Now, they will tell you that, dislike is one thing, but it's the hatred that is misogyny. But what I've been able to deduce is that the difference between dislike and hatred is whether or not you are willing to defend your position. So if you try to justify your hatred of Sansa by illustrating all of the stupidity that she has displayed, you have crossed the line into hatred. So if you just don't like her and keep it to yourself, you're fine. But if you dare to speak against her, well, you're a misogynist. I got a little problem with that. So, one, I think the idea that any fictional character can so represent what it means to be a woman, that criticism of her as misogyny is actually misogyny. Um, uh, a good character that is well developed is flawed. So, by saying that this character represents all women, you are saying all women are flawed in this particular way. And George R.R. Martin is extremely good at character development, and his characters are very flawed. Even the ones that are supposed to be, really good are deeply flawed because people are flawed. So, this whole idea that there is a, a typical female, I actually find misogynistic. And I know that George R. R. Martin has been accused of misogyny because of the patriarchy that he has created. But I disagree with that as well because he has shown so many strong female characters. He's shown how wrong that feudal patriarchy is by showing a lot of female characters that don't fit in what is typical and the struggles that they have to face in order to be able to be who they are, which is still a woman. So, Sansa Stark put my back up right from the very beginning. The earliest pages of the book, I did not like Sansa. And this is where a lot of the criticism of she's a typical girl. And if you hate her for being a typical girl, then you just hate girls and you're a misogynist. But I don't think she's a typical girl. I think she's a typical mean girl. Sansa Stark is not nice. I don't like the way she treats people. She's got a veil of courtesy that she wears, but her courtesy is very insincere. Sansa Stark is a stuck-up little bitch. That's my opinion. There you go. So she's really good at certain things, and I don't fault her for that. So she's good at sewing. Great. She's good at dancing. She's got the nice manners. She knows how to dress nice. She's got herself always put together. And, she behaves like the little lady. and she has, romantic fantasies about marrying a prince and being queen. Okay. So, no problem with that. What I've got a problem with is how she treats people as a result of that. She's horrible to her sister, and she's terrible to her half brother, John. And, thinking of he's the bastard, and his mother was common. And the way that that's written in the books, the word common is in italics, so it bears the weight. So there's that superiority that Sansa feels. And I've heard the excuse of, well, that's just how she was raised. And I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it that it's how she was raised and not indicative of her character, because she is the only one of her siblings who feels that way. So if that's how she was raised, why don't they all have some semblance of that? But she is the only one that sees John that way. And she is the only one that sees others as inferior. And she has taken in that she's good at all of these things, and that makes her superior. And she wants to marry the perfect little prince and be queen. And if she can find herself a perfect little prince and be queen, okay, go for it. Personally, I don't understand why anybody would want to marry into a royal family. Your life is never your own again after that. I couldn't do it, but if that's what you want to do, go for it. But the problem that I have with Sansa is that her perfect little prince is not so perfect. He's actually a sadistic little bastard, and she's willing to overlook that because she wants to be queen. And that is actually fairly typical for, a book that is written. The title of the first book is A Game of Thrones. Sansa wants to be a player. Okay, I don't like most of the other players. Why do I have to like her? I hate Cersei. Why can't I hate Sansa, who is shaping up to be Cersei light? So, one of the other things I hear is that, well, you'll, forgive Jaime for pushing Bran out the window, and you'll forgive Tyrion for sacking Winterfell, but you can't forgive Sansa for betraying her family to the Lannisters. So that must just be misogyny. So again, backstory and motivation matters. So with Jaime, yeah, I hate Jaime in the beginning. Absolutely hate him. I don't start liking Jaime until I get a POV chapter, and I can start to understand where Jaime's motivations are coming from, and that a lot of it is due to disillusionment. He had a lot of the same idealism that Sansa's displaying, and a lot of that same arrogance that Sansa's displaying. But he got disillusioned, and he got disillusioned pretty early. And it has really had an impact on him. And the hypocrisy that he has witnessed, the corruption that he has witnessed, and a lot of that have come to bear. And once you see things from his perspective, it changes things. Now, I still don't like the arrogance of Jaime, and I'm not going to just accept it until I start to see a change in him. And Jaime is actually changing his behavior. He is making a concerted effort to be different, to be better. And that's where his redemption comes in. It's kind of the same thing with Theon in the show. Theon in the books, I'm still kind of, you haven't really earned it for me yet. And a lot of that has to do with, as much as he went through at Winterfell under the tender care of Ramsay Bolton, when he rescues Jane Poole in the books, which is, the part Sansa plays in the show, um, as they land, he's he thinks it's a successful landing because he landed on her and she broke his fall. So I think he cracked a couple of her ribs or something like that. But he shows little to no concern for Jane. And so I'm like, Theon still kind of appears to be behaving like Theon. It hasn't come around full yet. So I'm still not a fan of Theon. But he's kind of starting to get there. In the show, he's there. He has realized that his arrogance, much like Sansa's, and his ambition in wanting to be the king of the Iron Islands, like Sansa's desire to be queen, caused a lot of his problems. He doesn't want it anymore. He wants to serve. He wants to support his sister in her claims and has decided that he's not fit to rule. Okay, so there is the redemptive arc. There is the change in the behavior, the acknowledgement of the internal flaw, and the desire to try and rectify it. I have not seen that in Sansa. So I have not forgiven her yet. I am not expecting her to be something that she has not yet shown herself to be. And that's a lot of the problem that I'm having with the analysis that I see on Sansa, is that people are crediting her with a level of intelligence and a depth of character that she just simply has not displayed. When it came out of season 5 and she and Theon had jumped off the wall of Winterfell, I was prepared to begin to like Sansa. It's like, okay, I'm ready for the redemptive arc. Okay, I am ready for her to realize that, walking into the Bolton lair, even though it was her old home, with no backup, no plan, no exit strategy, and deciding to marry a man that you know nothing about was stupid, especially since, your last betrothal to the boy you knew nothing about didn't turn out so well. He turned out to be a sadistic bastard. And guess what? So did this one. So I was prepared to begin to like Sansa. And the way she interacted with Brienne early in season 6, I'm like, okay, I can do that. Her reunion with Jon, I'm like, okay, good. She apologizes. Yay, that's progress. She admits that she treated him awfully. Yay, that's progress. Then what does she do? She immediately starts telling Jon what he's going to do and how he's going to do it and how he's going to get her home back for her. And, oh, it's actually for them. And, oh, yeah, you're really a Stark to me, but I'm going to be the Lady of Winterfell. I don't know what the hell you're going to be. So she has all of these ideas. She's politically savvy, right? So she lectures Davos. See, I don't like the way she treats Davos either. And I don't like the way she treats Brienne. She's just so superior and so cold. And as many problems as I have with her mother, Kat, and some of the decisions that Kat made, Kat did not treat people this way. Cersei treats people this way. So she's acting like Cersei, and she's treating people just dismissively and condescendingly. I don't like her tone. I don't like her attitude. And so she lectures Davos on the North. And then guess what? As they go around trying to rally troops, Davos is right in how the people are going to react, and she's wrong. So she tries false flattery at Bear Island. Lyanna Mormont ain't buying it. She tries the dictatorial, you are pledged to House Stark, at the Glovers. They ain't buying it. And then she goes and gets the army of the men of the Vale that she hadn't even told Jon are an option. Now, I had convinced myself after season 6, I had convinced myself that she was trying to protect Jon. That she really does love Jon. She really is ready to reunite and embrace him as a member of the family and move beyond all of that. And that she knew that getting involved with the Knights of the Vale was going to come with strings attached, and she didn't want Jon messed up with Littlefinger because she knew that Jon had the honor and the integrity of the North, and that Littlefinger has no honor or integrity and operates through betrayal and murder, as does Cersei. And so I had convinced myself that that's what it was all about. And then after this scene with Sansa and Littlefinger in the Godswood at the end of season 6, where he tells her, what his motivation is, that he sees himself on the Iron Throne and her beside her. And then as she's walking away, he says, who should the North rally behind? The true-born daughter of Ned and Catelyn Stark, or a bastard born in the South? And then they, it goes and they name Jon King in the North, and she looks at Littlefinger. I had convinced myself she was worried about Jon. Because if your motivation is to protect your brother and to protect your family, and this dangerous man who has implicated you in regicide and framed your husband for murder and murdered your aunt tells you that, the men should support you instead of your brother, well, you expect him to try and undermine your brother, right? So if you really are politically savvy, what are you going to try and do? And if you're really politically savvy and you want to stop Littlefinger from doing what he's going to do, what is the appropriate action to take? What would you do? So logically, what you would do is show support for your brother. Present a united front in public, so that even if Littlefinger's whispering around, oh, you should really be supporting Sansa and not Jon. Oh, Sansa is the true-born daughter of Winterfell. Jon is, just Ned's bastard. You should really be supporting the Lady of Winterfell, not, Jon Snow. If you're presenting a united front, the Lords of the Vale are going to be like, well, what's the difference? It's, I support him, I support her. They're talking a united front. It's one and the same. But she doesn't do that. She calls him out publicly, questions his judgment every single step of the way. And her challenges aren't even really all that smart. So at the very beginning of season 7, they're, in the room, and Jon is talking to the Lords of the North, and he's talking about mining for dragon glass and finding dragon glass, and that everybody needs to train, every man, woman, boy, and girl. And Lord Glover objects to that. You want me to put a spear in my granddaughter's hand? And it's Lyanna Mormont who jumps to his defense, and not Sansa. And I'm just going to say that Lord Glover is being a little short-sighted there. Because let's face it, if the zombie apocalypse is coming, 100,000 ice zombies marching at you, you don't want your granddaughter to be able to defend herself? And if you're not learning how to wield a weapon, you're not going to be able to defend yourself. You're going to be dependent on hiding or having somebody else defend you. And with them having 100,000, undead coming at you, with an undead dragon nonetheless, that's not going to be that easy. It's going to be easy for somebody else to get distracted, and all of a sudden you got a wight grabbing a hold of you and you got no weapon and no idea what to do. That is just foolish from a self-preservation perspective. So John decrees that, all men, women, boys, and girls must train. And then they talk about the castles of the Umbers and the Karstarks who had sided with Ramsay Bolton. And this one's particularly interesting because Sansa doesn't even give John a chance to respond to that. She automatically steps up and starts speaking like it's her decision to make. And newsflash, Sansa, you're not the freaking queen. You are the king's sister. You are the Lady of Winterfell, but you're not the queen. So, and you can even see the way John and Davos both look at her. And again, she's wrong because she's saying, well, we should take the castle away from those families and give it to the families that helped. And, that is a very Lannister thing to do. And just because the Lannisters had given her home to Roose Bolton as a political reward. So after just fighting a big, huge battle to free her home from the people it had been given to as a political reward, she's turning around and wanting to give away homes as political reward. Thinking that those people are going to take it better than she did because she's got a right to her home and they don't have a right to theirs? That's just stupid. And then, she accuses John of behaving like Joffrey when all he's trying to tell her is, if you want to challenge me in private, not in public. And then she says, Robb and father acted stupidly and they lost their heads. And that's true. They made some mistakes, but I don't think the mistakes that she's referencing are the same mistakes I'm thinking about. They underestimated their enemy. That's the mistake that they made. They expected their enemy to behave honorably. I think what Sansa is saying is they behaved honorably. So you have to be your enemy. Here's why I think that. Sansa never embraced being a Stark. When she was always the least Starkish. So being raised in that environment, in the feudal patriarchal system of Westeros, a girl is expected to marry and go off and adopt the customs of her husband's household. And so the women know they're going to have to do that, and travel's not that easy. It's not that fast. So you're not really going to be able to come back and visit a whole lot if you marry someone who lives far away. So, being okay with that, being ready to do that, I've got no problem with. That's just part of the culture. But she was very eager to do that. And it was her eagerness to shed all of the northern customs that was another reason I just really didn't like her from the word go. And so she's gone from that, of having never really embraced the honor and the stoicism of being a Stark. And then she went and spent the rest of her childhood with Cersei Lannister and Littlefinger. And they are very powerful. They wield a lot of power. But what are their primary goals? Both of them, their primary goal is to secure and increase their own power. And in order to do that, they use murder and betrayal. And some can say Cersei has been very successful at securing and increasing her own power because she is now the first ever queen of Westeros. So, yeah, we'll say that's successful. She is the queen of Westeros, and it only cost her her husband, that she didn't like anyway, all of her children, her father, her brother, 4 of the kingdoms, and her dignity because of the walk of shame. If that's what we're calling success, then yeah, okay, Sansa's politically savvy. I don't really call that success. If that's what it takes in order to do it, you're not going to be successful. But that then is where I think Sansa's coming from. She is worried about her own power, what it is going to mean. And it is a very complicated issue that she's actually dealing with, of what her position would actually be at Winterfell. If Jon is the king in the north and she's the lady of Winterfell, well, where is his seat? Is he going to have a seat? Is his seat going to be Winterfell? Well, wouldn't that then make him the Lord of Winterfell? And if he gets married, his wife would be the Lady of Winterfell. So what does that mean to Sansa? Is she going to, marry again? I mean, she's been engaged to everybody in Westeros. Every single male in Westeros has been promised to Sansa at some point. But it's a very kind of up in the air power situation. And I think she's a little worried about it. And people are arguing of, oh no, there's an undead army coming down. She's not going to be worried about her own power. If you knew that people were coming to kill you, would you be worried about your own power? One, I'm not Sansa. I don't expect Sansa to behave the way that I would behave. She has never behaved the way that I would behave at any point in the books, or in the show. So why would I expect her to start behaving the way I would behave now? So asking me what I would do, totally irrelevant to the situation. So what would Sansa do? Well, it all depends. Does she even believe that the army of the dead is real? Dany has told us that you have to see it to believe it. And Sansa's not seen it. She hasn't seen a single white. And she has not shown a particular trust in the judgment of her brother. She has actually openly called him out, at least in private this time, on focusing to the threat of the north and completely ignoring the threat to the south. And who knows, that may be wise at some point. But if she thinks that he's making every decision wrong and there's a threat, why wouldn't you want to remove him from power? If you think he's just going to get y'all killed because he's compromised, he has hooked up with a Targaryen and a Lannister and foreign armies, brought them all into the north, and a Targaryen in the north, a Targaryen, killed Ned's father and brother and have killed Starks in the past, and it's not good. And the Lannisters, killed their father. So here you're coming in with the families of the people that have basically wiped out your whole family, and we expect Sansa to just be totally cool with that. The whole idea that Dany is going to get to Winterfell and Sansa's going to start braiding her hair and get together with the Lords of the North and the Dothraki and the Unsullied and Tyrion Lannister, and they're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya in the Godswood, is just absurd. Are people going to be worried about their own petty little power plays, even with the threat of the dead coming down from the wall? Of course they are. This is Game of Thrones. That's always what people are worried about. That's always what they're doing. So this whole idea that my extreme distaste for Sansa, when I think that she is probably going to betray, or at least get really close to betraying, my favorite character, is not based in misogyny. It is based in the fact that I hate Cersei. I hate Littlefinger. I love the characters who are honorable and who are funny and have that integrity and some good freaking sense. Those are my favorite characters. Honor, good sense, and funny. Now, John's not particularly funny, but I love him anyway. But the further a character strays from honor, good sense, and humor, the less I like him. I have seen very little honor from Sansa. I have seen very little good sense from Sansa. And I have seen some humor. She has had a few good moments in there. I'm not going to say everything about Sansa has been horrible. She's had a few good moments. It's just, on the whole, I hate her. And it's not because she is a typical woman. I just hate her. Now, back to the whole training in the yard, because I tried to argue this point and on a fan forum, and I was, told I'm just a misogynist and all women don't have to be warriors. If you think all women must be warriors, then you're a misogynist. One, I don't expect Sansa to be a warrior. John decreed every man, woman, boy, and girl should train. Have we seen Sansa train? No, we have not. This is a problem for me. One, because if she was really supporting her brother and she really wanted to counteract the mischief that Littlefinger was going to get at, what would be a really super easy and effective way to show the Lords of the North that you support what John is doing, that you think the threat is serious, and that you think he's making the right decisions? You get out there and you train with their daughters. You show, I believe it. I'm gonna make the effort. So I did not need Sansa to be a warrior. I don't need her to be Arya. I don't need her to be Brienne. I don't need her to even be competent at defending herself. I needed her to make an effort. Because again, 100,000 zombies coming down from the wall. What are you going to do? Somebody's not going to be able to defend you every second of the battle. They're going to be defending themselves. So I'm just going to say right now, if one of my favorite characters dies defending Sansa because she couldn't be bothered to learn how to defend herself, I'm going to be pissed. Now, I think it would have been absolutely fantastic for Arya to give Sansa dancing lessons. You want to build a bond between those two sisters? After Sansa saw Arya train with Brienne, instead of thinking, wow, where did she learn all of that? Maybe if I could have done that, Ramsay Bolton would have been able to rape me so easily. Then, you would think, okay, I want to train. And that's what I was hoping she was going to do. But no, now she's scared of her sister instead. So I thought it would have been really great for Littlefinger to ask, Sansa at one point where she was going, and for her to just say, Arya's giving me dancing lessons. They wouldn't have even had to show Sansa training. Just that whole idea. Because one of the great things about the water dancing is it teaches you evasive moves. And if nothing else, that's what Sansa needs. She needs to learn evasion. She needs to learn how to get away, how to get out of a grip, how to do all of that stuff. And it just would have been fun, a great bonding experience for the sisters. But no, no. Sansa had to go trying to figure out how she was going to kill her sister instead. Now, people will say that it was just bad writing, that season 7 was just bad writing, and that they wrote Sansa badly. Okay, but why are we pretending that a fictional character is anybody other than who they're written to be? So if she was badly written, it was because she was written to be unsupportive of her family. She's securing her own power and not embracing her family. Now, maybe she has changed, maybe not. She may have changed in her interactions with Arya, but she still doesn't seem to be particularly happy with Jon. And honestly, I can't blame her in this one. I can't blame her about not being happy with Jon bending the knee, because it was a stupid thing to do and it was pointless. Daenerys had already agreed to come and fight. It would have been much better for him to introduce her as an ally instead of as the queen that he'd already bent the knee to. So her acceptance would have been better. But that's, I can't help but wonder now if there's going to be another For the Watch situation where the North is going to, try to assassinate him so that they can make Sansa queen. And, whether Sansa's going to participate in that, I don't know, but we have to consider the possibility that she will. And entertaining the possibility that Sansa is going to betray Jon is not misogyny. It is a logical progression based on her character. And to just dismiss it out of hand, I am just going to say, as Tyrion said, a wise man once said, you should never believe a thing just because you want to believe it. Something to think about.